It began like any other Saturday match, until it didn't. The crowd at Salford versus Oldham came expecting football, not history. The clouds hung low, the floodlights hummed faintly, and for a brief moment nothing seemed unusual, until something shifted. A ripple through the stands, a murmur that grew into a roar. Flags started waving, chants began rising, and what looked like a game turned into a statement. This wasn't routine. It was rebellion. Within seconds, hundreds surged forward, spilling onto the pitch, English flags clutched in their hands, faces fierce with pride and anger. You could almost feel it in the air, that mixture of disbelief and defiance. Some said it was chaos, others said it was justice. But what were they really shouting for? The answer takes us far beyond the white lines of the field. Because this began not in the stadium, but online. A post. A few carefully chosen words from Gary Neville, the former England star, businessman, pundit, and now a symbol of something much bigger than football. He'd taken down a Union Jack from one of his development sites. To him, it was a simple, thoughtful act, a stand against division. He said Britain was being pulled apart, that we didn't need to choose sides, that unity meant stepping back from symbols that divide. But what he saw as principle, thousands saw as betrayal. To them, that flag wasn't politics, it was pride. It was the echo of every chant, every rainy match night, every anthem belted from the terraces. And when he took it down, it felt personal. It felt like he'd pulled down a piece of them, and they weren't about to stay quiet. The backlash came fast. Social media exploded overnight. Hashtags filled timelines, comment sections turned into battlefields. Clips of Neville's statement spread like wildfire. Some defended him, saying he had courage to speak thoughtfully. But most didn't see it that way. They saw elitism in every sentence, the tone of someone who'd forgotten the noise of the stands where his story began. And when Saturday arrived, that online tension walked straight into the stadium. It started quietly, almost politely. A few loud boos, a couple of flags raised higher than usual. Then a chant. Short, sharp, cutting. Neville's out of touch. One chant became hundreds. The stands trembled. Stewards rushed to calm the surge, but they were seconds too late. The pitch was flooded, not with violence, but with fury. Fans stood shoulder to shoulder on the turf, waving flags, chanting the anthem, refusing to leave. It wasn't just about Neville. It was about all of them. The forgotten, the unheard, the fans who built the game and felt the game had left them behind. Some pundits tried to label it hooliganism, but here's where it got interesting. The footage told a different story. No smashed seats, no thrown bottles, just flags, chants, faces red with emotion, and one message shouted in unison. We built this game. Don't lecture us. It was defiance wrapped in discipline. Old men in scarves stood next to kids barely in their teens, and for 10 minutes, the same energy ran through them all. Stewards shouted. Police looked uneasy. But the fans weren't there to fight. They were there to be heard. Because in modern Britain, when voices are ignored, football grounds become parliament halls. And that night, the people spoke. Neville didn't speak immediately. Cameras caught him watching from the side, unsure whether to step forward or stay silent. Later, in his usual calm and polished tone, he explained again his intent: to prevent division, not provoke it. He said, I love my country. I love Manchester. I love England, but we're being pulled apart. But in homes and pubs across the country, that message fell flat because it missed something fundamental: the difference between unity and detachment. The people listening weren't against togetherness. They were against feeling erased. That flag wasn't a sign of hate to them. It was the thread tying their memories, their belonging, their Britain. And that's what made this more than a sports story. By Sunday morning, headlines were divided. Some said Neville was brave, others called him tone-deaf. Sky News covered the scene with careful neutrality, reporters walking that delicate line between outrage and understanding. But online, the tone was raw. TikTok clips of fans storming the pitch hit millions of views. Commentators uploaded think pieces debating patriotism and identity. Hashtags like "Who Speaks for England" trended, stretching from football circles into national politics. Suddenly, the question wasn't about Neville's construction site or a single flag. It was about something that's been simmering quietly for years. Who decides what being English means? Is pride now seen as division? And if it is, who made that call? For many, this protest cut to the heart of a wider cultural divide. To them, Neville symbolized the polite, media-shaped elite telling working-class fans how to feel, how to express pride, how to be respectable. He'd once been one of them, running down the pitch to chants of his name. Now he looked like someone looking down at them from a TV studio or a luxury box, saying, "Calm down." And that stung. Because for millions who pour their lives into football, telling them their pride is dangerous sounds like telling them their identity is. And that's why the fans ran. That's why they broke the rules to make a point. They were done being quiet. Across Britain that weekend, conversations erupted. In pubs, on trains, online forums, people who'd never heard of Gary Neville's development project suddenly cared deeply about it. Some said the fans had gone too far, others said they'd done exactly what needed to be done: remind the country who football really belongs to. One moment that caught huge attention was a clip of an older man, drenched from the rain, waving a flag as he shouted, "We won't be silenced." That clip alone became the symbol of something much larger than a club rivalry. Because this wasn't Salford versus Oldham anymore. It was Britain versus distance, people versus detachment, a clash between those who speak from the terraces and those who speak from studios. The days that followed turned the whole thing into a national debate. Politicians weighed in, some cautiously supporting the fans, others warning against symbolic extremism. But what no one could deny was that the story had struck a nerve. For years, discussions about English identity had felt abstract, confined to essays, interviews, polite exchanges. Suddenly, it was real. It had a face, a chant, a flag, and a stadium echoing with a message that couldn't be softened or smoothed out. Pundits analyzing it on morning shows couldn't replicate the raw honesty of that roar. And as that roar kept echoing online, a question hung over everything. Who owns the meaning of patriotism in modern Britain? Neville might have meant unity, but in the eyes of many, he proved just how fragmented the conversation had become. Because unity, as it turns out, can't be delivered from the top down. It has to come from shared experience, not statements. The Salford fans reminded everyone of that truth in the most public way possible. They turned a pitch field into a living editorial, a protest of belonging. They made something abstract, national pride, tangible again. Even people who disagreed with their methods couldn't deny the message. The working people who built the culture feel like they're losing the right to express it. And then came the moment that changed it from a one-day story into a national reference point. The pitch protest didn't fade. It grew into something symbolic. Commentators looked back and realized it wasn't just noise. It was a symptom, a sign that beneath every polite debate on unity, there's a growing frustration among those who feel unheard, unrepresented, unseen. And that's where the story lands its heaviest punch. When football becomes the only space where people can still shout freely, it means something's gone missing elsewhere. Somewhere along the way, conversation became caution, and the stadium took over as the people's microphone. By the final whistle, the message was clear. This wasn't about a single flag, a single man, or a single match. It was about voice. The voice of Britain's terraces saying, loud and defiant, "We're still here. You don't get to define our pride for us." And whether you agree or not, you can't deny that power. Because even a simple Saturday match can shake the conversation about national identity at its very core. Gary Neville might have wanted calm, but what he got instead was clarity from the people who care most. They don't want to be managed. They want to be respected. And that's the real end of this story. Not anger, but ownership. A reminder that symbols matter, words matter, and pride, when dismissed, doesn't disappear, it just finds a louder stage. The pitch that day wasn't broken. It was alive.